Hello and welcome to all of you once again. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here and to prepare together and learn together here as part of this digital delegation of the Justice Coalition of Religious to an upcoming conference at the United Nations that will review both national and global progress towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm sure everyone who is in the room is now very familiar with that formal name of that Progress Review Forum, which is the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development. And at this point, I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you once again. If anyone is joining us for the first time live, I just want to especially greet you and to introduce myself. I'm Teresa Blumenstein. You have probably been receiving emails from me urging you to look at different materials and video recordings and to be here at these meetings with us. So thank you for answering those calls and for taking time to be here with us today. And we will open, as we always do, with a short prayer. God, leadership is hard to define. Let us be the ones to define it with justice. Leadership is like a handful of water. Lord, let us be the people to share it with those who thirst. Leadership is not about watching and correcting. Lord, let us remember it is about listening and connecting. Leadership is not about telling people what to do. Lord, let us find out what people want. Leadership is less about the love of power and more about the power of love. God, as we continue to undertake the role of leader, let us be affirmed by the servant leadership we witness in Jesus Christ. Let us walk in the path Christ has set, and let those who will follow. Let our greatest passion be compassion, our greatest strength, love, our greatest victory, the reward of peace. In leading, let us never fail to follow. In loving, let us never fail. Amen. So you will notice that the focus or the theme of our opening prayer today was about leadership and our role as leaders. And the reason for that focus is that today's topic is moving us as a group toward preparing to take a leadership role in the lab, which is a series of several online sessions that we will organize together as a digital delegation, and also preparing to follow and to critique some of the reports that will be submitted by your respective governments in the next several weeks or months. And so in short, we are preparing to take on more of a role as leaders and as active participants in this process of monitoring progress toward the SDGs. Specifically, what we will be doing together today is, again, checking in to exchange any updates that you may have on your efforts to join one of the teams that will respond to your own government's progress report, the Voluntary National Review, or VNR. And also, if you have any updates to share on your effort to be in communication with a civil society network that is monitoring SDG progress in your own country. We will also introduce some new information. As I mentioned, specifically, we will talk about the schedule and the design, the format of this event that I have mentioned called the JCoR SDG Lab, short for laboratory, which will be a series of 5 sessions that will be held the week after the forum itself. We will also introduce information about where you can find reports that were submitted by a civil society network in your country in previous years, because even if they have not submitted something this year, you may be able to find something that your peers in civil society submitted about SDG progress in previous years. And we'll also talk about where you can find your government's progress report, the Voluntary National Review. We'll talk about where you can find that report once it becomes available. And we will go through a little bit of guidance, some reflection questions that can perhaps assist you in your own reflection and critique on those reports. And then we'll talk about the concrete next steps that you will need to take between now and the next time that we gather as a whole group, which will not be until the 1st of July. So kind of a little bit of a long stretch between now and our next call. So let's jump right in to the first of that nice long list of topics and tasks for today, and begin by checking in with all of you about your experience thus far. Those of you who may have attempted to join the team that will respond to your government's report on the SDGs. You have seen this information before from some of our previous meetings, so I'm just bringing it to the screen again to remind us all that what we are talking about is a team that's organized by something called the major groups and other stakeholders. And they are organizing a couple of representatives from civil society to respond immediately after each government presents their own progress report. And so this is really the most active and direct way that members of civil society are able to communicate directly with government during the forum. So I wanted to first ask, I know some of you, last time we met, you were still waiting to get responses. You had completed the form and you had indicated that you wanted to be part of the team for your own country. So I wanted to ask you if you have seen any progress since then, if you have received any response or communication from the team that is organizing that. And it would probably be from one of these 3 people down here. I have their names and their email addresses in case anyone is having difficulty being in contact with them. They are Ollie Henman, Jessica Bridgers, and Lonnie Anaya. And if you want to get any of their contact information, you can get it here. And I will also share it in these slides after our call. But could I ask, is there anyone who signed up, who tried to join one of these teams, and you would like to share if you were able to get a response, or if you're still waiting for a response? Yes, Sarudzai. Oh, excellent. That's such great news. Thank you for sharing. I'm excited that you are part of that process. And Marta?
Thank you, Teresa. I got in touch with the civil society engagement group in Europe, and we are working together with the large platform that is working in Spain with the civil society that it's called Futuro Común, a common future. And we have already a draft statement, and we're going to get in touch with Olli Henman to get in touch with the Permanent Commission of the UN in Spain.
Wonderful. This is such excellent and exciting news. Thank you very much. I'm so pleased to hear that you are connected with that group. We have worked with them in the past for this forum, and they're very well organized, I think. So that's excellent. Donatus?
Good afternoon, good morning, all. I'm talking from Kenya. Kenya is also under review, and we made VNL as a consultative organization, is under SDG Kenya Forum. And so that is generally what we are currently working on. But apart from that, I would be very excited to join the thematic area, groups that are defining a specific. So I will be very happy if I can get a contact, then I can carry on with those. Thank you.
Okay, and just to be sure I'm understanding correctly, you have not yet had a communication from them, is that correct?
Yes, not yet.
Okay. I'll make sure you have these addresses, and hopefully we can ensure that connection is made.
Thank you, I'll be so grateful.
Sure. Is there anyone else who attempted to join one of the teams that will respond to the government report? Yes, Susan. Wonderful. That's excellent. So it sounds like it may be helpful for me to make sure that you and Donatus are connected first, and then you can share that connection to the SDG forum in Kenya.
Yes.
Great. And feel free, if you don't need me, feel free to share your contact information in the chat box if you want to do that. You won't have to wait for me to intervene. Yes, Joelle.
Good morning. I also got into contact with the work group here in Brazil, and I am still waiting for their return. I have not received anything from them yet. Could you hear the translation? He has not yet received any contact from the Brazilian group.
Yes, very good. So Joelle, was it the form that I shared with you that was organized by these major groups? Is that the group that you attempted to contact, or was it the National Civil Society Group for Brazil?
The National Civil Society Group.
Okay. I will see if I can find any additional contact information for them, that maybe there will be, if one method of communication does not work, maybe another one is more active for them. We never know what may work. So I will see if I can find something additional to the information already provided. Is there anyone else that wanted to share an experience of trying to make contact with a team for your own country? Okay. And who did you send an email to? Okay. 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 I will look again to see if I can find any more information for that network. Okay. Thank you all for checking. And again, if you have not yet attempted to make a connection with the team from your country, we do have that nice directory of different civil society networks that are in each country. And so I encourage you to explore the networks that are listed beside your country name. You may find some of them, were active in the past and maybe not active in the present, but you still may find some interesting material. Many of them have a website where you can find their past reports or past activities. And it may be interesting to you to see how they have been organizing in the past, and perhaps give ideas for how you could be involved in organizing with other organizations in the future. Because this forum happens again and again each year, and your country will likely report again in the next few years, if not next year. And the other thing, if you did fill out that form to be part of the team that directly speaks to government at the forum, these are, again, the 3 names that would be of interest. These would be the right people to contact. So we'll just move ahead there. And now to say a little bit more about where to find reports from your government. Oh, but first I see, I think Maricruz had her hand raised. Maricruz?
I just have a question. Is it difficult to find the civil society? Well, if it is difficult to find a civil society in our country, is it easier or better for us to get in touch with the groups, the major groups and other interested stakeholders? Or because I think the networks or the pages and contacts that you gave us from Mexico are a bit outdated. So if I don't get any response here in Mexico, is it better for me to move on and contact the major groups?
That could be a good secondary option if you find you are not having success. It may, I think the major groups, if you have not already contacted the major group in some way, those 3 names that I listed, at this point in the process, they probably have more or less completed their preparation for the forum, but it could be different country by country. Perhaps some countries are still in the process of preparing their remarks, and so it would not hurt. I think it's a good idea to at least try to make contact with those 3 individuals who are listed on the previous slide, and just to see if it's still possible to connect with the team from your country that they are forming. And it may be possible, especially towards the later days when we are coming in the last days before the forum, that may be another opportunity when the government has released its written report. They will probably be formulating some of their ideas to share in the forum. And so there may be another chance for you to share some of your ideas with that team in those last days. So that was a long way of saying yes. And I think it's a good idea to contact them if you are not having success in connecting with kind of the independent civil society network from your country. Donatus? Donatus, did you have another question or comment? Okay, then we will go ahead. So the next important part of our process is these much anticipated, very long awaited reports called voluntary national reviews that are coming from each of your governments. And unfortunately, it is the common practice of the UN system that governments are allowed to submit their reports or their assignments very, very close to the day when we are expected to discuss them and to respond to them. And so we are still waiting to see the published version of these reports from government. But I will show you right now where you can find them when they are available. And our job, our process for the next several weeks is I will ask you to just keep going to the same place to check to see if your government's report is available. And it will be on different days for different countries because the UN system will add them to this database as soon as the government submits. So it may be earlier for some than for others, but they will all be in the same place. So I will show you where to find them now. So the database of voluntary national review reports is on this page of the HLPF website. And you can see I have the link here at the top of this slide. I will also get it and put it into the chat box for you. And so you, oops, sorry. You will see all of your countries listed here with your flag, and you can just use the scroll bar to find your country and click on it. And once you have selected your country, you will arrive at a page that looks like this. And you will see listed below your country name, you will see each of the times that your country has submitted a voluntary national review. And so here in our example, we are looking at Brazil. And Brazil is now submitting for their second time since this process began. So they submitted one report in 2017. And if I want to see that past report, I can click here below where it says 2017. But when I want to see this year's report, 2024, then I want to click on this line right here. And when I open or click there, I will arrive at a page that looks like this. And you can see that right now we are on the 2017 page because if I showed you the 2024, it will be empty. So there's nothing interesting to see. But when information has been added for 2024, it will look more like this. And you will see there will probably be some text right here. This will be a very brief summary. It's what the UN calls the main messages of the overall report. So it will be very brief, very generalized. You will not find many very useful details, I think, in this little summary. And for that reason, we encourage you all to dive into the very exciting and very detailed full report from your government. And to find those, you can look in two places on this page. One is off to the right-hand side here. You will see a gray panel like this. And you will probably see the file name will be something like full report for the HLPF. And you may find that there is more than one language version. For example, here on the page of Brazil, they had their full report from 2017. They published in both English and in Portuguese. So you would have your choice to read it in either language. The other place that you may find the link to the full report is below that little summary down here. There's another set of document links. And so again, you will look for something with a title similar to full report or full report for HLPF. They may have different names in different countries' pages. So use your best judgment to determine which one is the report that you are looking for. But there will not be a large number of documents there. So it should not be difficult to determine which document is the one you want. And unfortunately, this website is really only published in English. So if you have automatic translation, that will help somewhat. But I really want to show you the layout of the page so that even if you are only seeing it in English, you are still able to navigate to the report. And once you find that report, once it is available and you have found it, that's when the fun begins. And for some of you, you may find that the report from your government could be fairly brief, maybe something like 10 pages or so. For some countries, you will find that the report is more like 200 pages. And certainly, if your country has submitted a report of 200 pages, I have no expectation that you are going to read 200 pages. If you want to, that would be excellent, and I would be very impressed. But I do not expect that. What I would recommend is if you would like to focus on a particular SDG or two, usually the reports are organized in a way around SDGs. So you will be able to find a specific chapter that is dedicated to the SDG that is of greatest interest to you. And so then you can go directly to that part of the report and just focus on that and not have to be overwhelmed with the daunting size of the whole report. So that's an important note. But then once you have found the piece of the report that you want to review, I suggest that you might try to organize your thoughts around 3 big questions. And those are, where does my own experience align with this report that I'm reading? Where does my experience conflict with the report? And finally, what is absent? What is missing? What are the additional insights or recommendations that I would want to add based on my own experience if the government had called me and asked me, what is important? What do we need to include in this report? And that may be a good place to begin, at least with your reflection. And if you have other ideas and other approaches to critique, by all means, do not feel constrained by these questions or by this approach. But if you are looking for some guidance, this may be helpful to you. I want to pause here for just a moment and check in with you all. Does anyone have any questions, or do we need any more clarification about where to find the report from government, or anything else about report from the government? Yes, Susan, go ahead. And while you ask your question, I will get that link to the VNR database for everyone to put in the chat box. Go ahead, Susan. So I would say any part of your experience of your country. It could be your experience in your ministry or a project that you have worked on. It could be your experience as if you're from that country originally. It could be your experience of your home community and what life is like when you're visiting with your family. It could be from information that you have received from other members of your congregation who are in the country. Really, any aspect of your experience is a useful source of witness or testimony that you can bring to this analysis. So really anything, anything from your experience. Are there any other questions? Yes, Donatus, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I still need, with your kindness that you give us, you provide us with the names of the major groups. The list of the major groups that you had sent in a previous presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Do you mean the list of networks for each country, or do you mean the UN organized?
The
groups?
UN major groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I will send those again. Yes, please, Melba.
About the reports, I believe that each country is that in each country there are networks or associations that write reports on the reality of the country. For example, I'm thinking of Honduras. The Jesuits work with the ERIC team, which is an analysis team. There is also in Salvador, the Central American University publishes reports on the situation in Central America, not just El Salvador. So I believe there are different sources that might help us get information that might help us to answer to the VNRs, because it's not just me. I am from Honduras, and that's why I'm able to see the situation on the ground, and it's not very nice. So there is room for improvement, and we are living a situation, a social and economic situation that is getting worse by the day. We have great problem, a great migration problem. And I'm currently not living there anymore, so I cannot see it every day, but I know of the situation. And there are different sources to which I can go to find out how the situation is and to answer these 3 questions. Thank you.
Very good point, Melba. And yes, and I will actually suggest in the next set of slides, I have a list of reports that I have found from, at least from past years, if not from very current reports that were created or published by different civil society networks from different countries. And even if you are unable to connect with a network this year, that may be a helpful place to begin to get a sense of the general sentiments and positions and perspectives from civil society in your country, which, as we all know from the process of dialogue and conversation, it's so common that, you know, just reading words, especially words from government on paper, sometimes it's difficult to know where to begin in our own response. But if we hear a comment from our peers, then our thoughts start to flow, and we have an easier time articulating our own ideas. So I do think that is very wise if you would like to get a sense of where to begin in your own response. You can look to your friends and colleagues in other parts of civil society, and even from past years. And the good news is, even the ones that are from the past, they can only be no more than 9 years old at this point, because that is when the SDG agenda began. So it's a little old, but not so old that you will not recognize the country in most cases. Yes, Jane.
Hi, Teresa. Good morning, everyone. Oh, good morning here in United States. Thank you for these questions, and I think this will serve us basically as organizations in the respective country. But where do we bring this reflection, or where do we share this? So that's my first question. And then the next is I wonder if, like, I know that we cannot, and maybe we will not attempt to read 200 reports. And as you have suggested, we just can pick up something significant or directly related to involvements or focus of our organization in respective country. I wonder or ask whether is there an opportunity in this digital program where countries, for example, members in the group here who belong to one country, that they can share among themselves that this is their impressions about the report. So then, you know, we can gather, you know, as from these delegates, a one reflection of the report of one country. I don't know if it's part of the program, or shall we take the initiative to do that, so that we'll have at least a bigger picture of, or a bigger picture or comment on the report, not just from our organization or individual organization.
That is a very good proposal, Jane. And in some way, I'll answer your first question first, because that will help with the second question. So in answer to the first question of where are these reflections going once you have reviewed your report and you think about the alignment and the conflict and the gaps, the missing pieces. you will have the opportunity to bring those reflections to at least two places. One will be that we will have calls again for the different regions among us in the same way that we did over the last couple of months. We will have a call for those within Latin America and one for those within Africa. And then I think we will try to get together some composite groups there are very few countries in Asia or Europe, but we will try to arrange a way of at least offering a space for those other few countries. And in that space, those calls that are just for those from your region, you can begin to share some of your more specific reflections on your own government's report. And then we will take these reflections also into the SDG Lab sessions that will happen at the end of July. And to answer Jane's second question about a possibility of kind of creating our own country by country kind of response, I think it's a really excellent idea. For some of you, there are quite a few delegates from the same country who are in this group. And so there might be a lot of good energy among you to bring together a collection of ideas as a group kind of response. And I'm very open to trying to facilitate that for those who are interested. And I'm thinking that the one way that I can approach that task is there is a form that I will show you in just a minute or two that I'm going to ask you to complete as part of our preparation for the SDG Lab sessions. And I think I will add a question to that form that will say, would you like to connect with other delegates from this group from your country to bring together a shared or a common critique or a common response to your government's report? And that could really take different forms depending on the energy or the creativity of the group. I could imagine it could be short video testimony if people like to do video. It could be something in writing if people like to express their ideas in writing. It could be a combination. So I think it's very possible, and I will introduce that question so that anyone who's interested in that kind of collaborative response, we will be happy to facilitate that.
Yeah. And on that note, collaborative response, I'm excited about it. I know it's not an additional job, but it's worth doing it, I think. And one of the things that I have been thinking, and also I've talked with some of our colleagues, especially for those who are trying to come to New York, to be there in person, to attend the entire HLPF. I'm thinking of opportunities where we can bring this reflection, for example, not just from my organization, but the reflection of a country level, for example. If there will be opportunity, I know we cannot speak as JCoR in any of the high level sessions, but thinking of the possibility, for example, of exploring mission visits. That's a term we use for those who are not yet familiar. In other words, meeting with permanent missions and also share our reflections so that we have a direct direct way of bringing this reflection. That's a thought. And then plus, if we have people who will come to New York and to meet the meet permanent mission, and for the permanent mission also to meet delegates from the respective country. I think it would be something worthy and a good way of our advocacy. That's just a thought. But if the group will pick that up, I'm willing to commit. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for your support in that project. Henry?
Good morning, everyone. I am reinforcing what just Mary Jane Castillo mentioned. The questions that you offer us for answering can be also used to the HLPF, but they are very useful for each organization for our daily work. Because we, the UN representatives of each of our organizations are participating in different committees, the Women's Rights Committee, the Migration Committee, etc. And the answers that you give to those questions can help us very much to our daily work here at the UN. So it's not just for the HLPF, which is very important, of course, but it is also important for us to have your information, because you are our allies in each country, and you are feeding us information that might be very helpful for our work in all those commissions in which we participate all throughout the year, the Haiti group, etc. And the idea that Mary Jane Castillo has is very good. So those people who are coming to the HLPF, maybe we could start thinking of organizing meetings or requesting meetings to with the missions, the representatives that will be participating in the missions, and to see if we get those appointments. That would be nice.
Great. Thank you, Henry. Margaret?
For the input, I was just wondering, as the members meet from different countries, at the end of the meeting with as a civil society, is there a time when the civil society goes back within those countries to reflect on what has happened, to kind of evaluate what the high-level political forum has been like, and maybe that is the place also where we can bring all these reflections, go back to your civil society, reflect with them, so that these main reflection can go back to the government, and in that way we will be able to say something, have our voice, influence the government by giving them a reflection, a sort of evaluation of that report. Thank you.
Good question, Margaret. And the answer is, I expect that some civil society networks in some countries will continue to meet and reflect after the forum, whereas other networks probably will not. They are more focused on preparing before the forum, and then probably will go quiet until the government is due to report again. So it will depend which country you're coming from. But that being said, we as a delegation do plan to meet in addition to our lab, which will happen the whole week after the forum. So in a way, we are already reflecting after the forum together in that space. And in addition to those sessions where we are critiquing together and sharing experiences, we will also have a meeting for just us delegates in August. And that will be an opportunity for us to debrief and to reflect not only on this program, but on the ways that we would like to continue the work, the ways that we would like to continue monitoring in our respective countries, even if our local civil society network is not going to be active in the time after the forum. And to return to Jane and Henry's suggestions, that may be something, if we are able to bring together a team from within this delegation, from especially the countries where we have many people, it may be a possibility that the same team that comes together to form a response to the government before the forum may also want to continue to communicate after the forum, and perhaps to organize themselves to approach government together, or to find other groups that they could approach government with. And so as far as making those connections and making sure you have the contact information of other delegates in this group who are from your country, that's something that we would be very happy to support and facilitate. And maybe if you want, to put together a WhatsApp group or some other form of communication that you can take together as a way of following up, because you make a good point, Margaret, that we put a lot of energy into a forum like this, but the work really happens between forums, and that may be the time when we may actually have the best opportunity to get the ear of someone in government, or the time that we might be the most helpful in guiding government, when they are taking the suggestions from the forum and bringing them home to implement them. That may be the most opportune moment for us to be there and to try to be guiding the hands of government. Donatus?
Yes, thank you. Allow me just to add a recommendation. Here in Kenya, we have that CSO forum, and it's the SDG Kenya forum. So that oversees, or rather continues, the implementation process throughout the year, from one circle to the other. So it doesn't stop here. Like already we have done the ground one, and we are waiting for the validation, and that will be in conjunction with our government and the UNDP, the UN agency that oversees that process. So after the high-level political forum, normally we still come together time after time to see like where we are. We even write a report, not only on the thematic SDGs, but all the SDGs, highlighting what has been accomplished, what are the challenges and recommendations. Thank you. So at least that is one thing that is happening in Kenya, and I'm proud of it, and we are moving very well. Thank you, and back to you.
That is wonderful to hear. And yes, you should be very proud of it. So we know at least one place the work is continuing year round. So if you are a delegate here from Kenya, Donatus has good news for all of you, that this community is continuing to organize year round, and the momentum that we are building together here can continue to be carried forward after the forum. Are there any other questions at this moment? Okay, then we will move on to a bit more of the details of this different resources that I've been mentioning. And so, as I promised, I have a little directory here of some past reports from the civil society networks in various countries. So I will share this directory with all of you after our meeting today. So you can visit the old reports, the past reports from your own country. And again, I would suggest if you choose to read one of those, you might approach them with really the same reflection questions that you might use when reading your government's report. And so now we will get into the promised details of this JCoR SDG Lab. So again, this will happen the week after the forum, which is the week of the 22nd of July through the 26th of July. And what the lab is really a series of 5 webinars. And the difference between just the calls that we have here as a delegation and the lab sessions is simply that we kind of open those calls. We invite other members of our network from other parts of the world, not only from those countries who are submitting reports this year. We invite our whole community of religious who are representing their congregations here at the United Nations. You all are welcome to invite anyone you want from your congregations or your partner organizations. These are kind of more of an open space where you will be invited to share your own critiques, observations, reflections, experiences, and good practices that relate to one of these thematic sustainable development goals. And so we will have one session or one day that's dedicated to each of the 5 thematic goals for this year. So on Monday, the 22nd of July, our session will be dedicated to goal number 1, which is the eradication of extreme poverty. Then on Tuesday, the 23rd, the session will be dedicated to goal number 2, which relates to hunger and sustainable agriculture. On Wednesday, the 24th of July, we will have a session dedicated to goal number 13, which is climate action or response to the climate crisis. And on Thursday, the 25th of July, we will have a session dedicated to goal number 16, which is good governance, peace building, and strong public institutions. And finally, on the Friday of that week, July 26th, we will have our session on goal number 17, which is partnerships for all of the sustainable development goals. And all of those sessions, each one of those 5 days, they will all be at the same time that we had our call today. So whatever time our call was today for you, wherever you are in the world, that will be the time of these sessions. And it will be the same time each of the 5 days. And the length may vary. It depends on how many of you are interested in each of these goals. There may be some days a little bit longer, some days a bit shorter, because some of us favor, sometimes we favor one of the goals or 2 of the goals more than the others, but you are each free to choose. But we do invite and encourage and ask that you do select at least one session which you will contribute to as a speaker. And again, I will move to the next slide to go into, again, the examples of the content that you might share or the comments you might make. So there are basically three different categories or three different approaches that you could take. You could choose to share some of your personal observations about how this SDG is or is not being implemented in your country. You could choose to focus on making a specific critique of the way that your government reported about progress on this SDG. Or you could choose to present a good practice or a ministry or a project that is being implemented by you or your congregation in your country that relates in some way to the SDG that we are focusing on that day. And if you want, if you're feeling really excited about all three of these different ways of commenting, you are also welcome to contribute a combination of two of them or all three of them. So whatever ideas are giving you energy, whatever sounds exciting and intriguing to you, that is the approach that you can take. And if you have a fourth idea that I have not even thought of, I welcome you to present that also. But these are at least three ways that we thought of that you might like to comment on a particular SDG in your country. So again, it's personal observations, critique of the government's report, or a good practice or project that relates to the SDG of the day. And I mentioned earlier that I will ask you all to complete a digital form in order to help me get a good sense of how many people are interested in each of these 5 topics, just so we can plan our schedule and I can let everyone know how much time they can expect to have for their own comments, and so we can all plan accordingly. So I will just briefly show you what that form looks like, just to give you a little sense of what you will be receiving. Okay. So here it is in English, but there will be a different version that is in Spanish. There will be another version in Portuguese. There will be another version in French. So forgive me if you are looking at the English version and you're not a reader of English, but it will appear in much the same way, but in your own preferred language. So at the top, we have really just a reminder of the points that I just shared about the different ways to contribute: observation, critique of government report, good practice. And then I'm asking you to complete this form by the 25th of June. So that way, when we come together again on July 1st, I can give you all more detailed instructions about, okay, on Monday, we will have this many speakers, and therefore each person will have 5 minutes. Or if it's fewer speakers, maybe I will say each person is allowed up to 8 minutes. So, but I will need your responses before we meet so that I can provide that instruction. And then the form will just ask for your email, your name, your congregation, the usual questions, and the country that you are going to speak about, and which goal you would like to speak about. So basically saying which session you want to speak in. And again, you may select more than one. If you are excited to speak about more than one of these goals, you are very welcome. But please do select just at least one, because this is a very important part of our journey together as a delegation. And in this question, I'm just asking to get a sense of if you plan to take the approach of sharing observations or critique of report or good practice. But that question is going to be optional, because it's okay if you don't know in advance. You can organize your thoughts later. The most important part is to know which goal you want to speak about. And then the final question relates to how you will be able to present on the day. So essentially we're asking, do you have a reliable internet connection that you think, you can trust, so that you will be able to join the Zoom call live that day and you don't expect to have any trouble? Or if you can't quite trust your internet connection, then the second option is to say, I can't trust my internet, so what I will do is record myself with my remarks before the day of the session, and I will send that to you, so that you will have a video if I can't connect. So that's what the final question is for, just so we know what our plan is for how people will be able to participate. So that's what the form looks like. And there is a link to that form here. You can see at the bottom of this slide. And I will also share it in an email after this call, both inside the slides, and I will also share it in the body of the email as a way of kind of highlighting this is a really important next task. Okay. Before we move on to a review of those next steps, does anyone have any questions about the SDG Lab, or how we are meant to prepare for it, or about the form that I just showed you? Yes, Maricruz.
I was thinking about a good practice, and I would like to know if we can invite someone to share, or has it to be us talking? Or is it, do we need to be the speaker, or can we invite someone to present a good practice?
I am open to you can invite, if you have someone in mind, you can invite someone else to contribute on this. If you feel that you can contribute yourself, truthfully, I would welcome both you and the person that you are thinking of to each participate in some way. And it could be that you could present even together. You could kind of come and offer a short remark and introduce the other person, and then they can say more. Or you could choose to speak on two completely different days, two completely different goals. But I would encourage each of you to have your voice in one of these sessions, if you feel that you can. And if you know someone else that would be a very good voice, please do invite them into the process and help to explain if they have not been with us in this preparation process. They will need some introduction to what this is all about. So if you could help to introduce that and bring them in, we would be very happy to hear additional voices also. Okay, are there any other questions about the SDG Lab or the form? Okay, great. That means I must have given a very boring explanation. You all understood it 5 minutes ago and I kept talking. Okay, but that's good. That means we have clarity anyway. So with that, I will just quickly review our steps for the next few weeks between now and our next call on the 1st of July. So as I mentioned earlier, we will be scheduling another call for you with other delegates from your region of the world. And we are looking to schedule those in the first half of July, because that is the time when we have the best chance of the government reports being published and available for you to study, but before the beginning of the forum itself. So that is the most opportune window of time where perhaps we have the government report, we have something to respond to, but we are not already in the middle of the forum. And so in that call, that will be a first opportunity. You can even think of it as a practice. If you want to include some points of critique when you speak for the SDG Lab, this regional call may be a place to test some ideas or exchange your ideas with others from your region and help kind of give some shape to the comments you think you might like to make in the context of the SDG Lab. But it's also a nice informal way to just share your reactions, your surprises and disappointments, and all those points of alignment and conflict and missing pieces. You can share all of that with other people who are in your region who may understand very well because you share a regional reality. So I will be writing to all of you to try to find a good day for that call between the 1st and the 15th of July. So that's one thing to be watching for. And then again, as we mentioned at the beginning of this call, if you would like to make connections with the civil society teams or networks for your country, you can try to connect with one of the links that I shared in our earlier sessions in that directory of civil society networks, or if you have not already, by writing to those 3 individuals who helped to organize the NGO major group. They could be helpful in getting you connected to others from your country who are looking to respond together to the government report from your country. And then the last point there with the small print is just a reminder to begin organizing your thoughts, to begin brainstorming about what you think you might like to share in the SDG labs and on which goal you would like to make your contribution. And then again, I have the link to that form that I am asking you to complete by the 25th of June to inform me which session of the SDG Lab you want to speak during. And then, of course, I'll ask you to register for our next call as a whole group, which will be on the 1st of July at the same time as today. Now, I know that was a very long to-do list, but I will promise that I will share these slides and I will share those important points for action with all of you. So if you are feeling dizzy or you missed any of those details as we spoke today, you will have them in writing and you can refer back to them and in your own language. So you don't need to worry about having missed something in English. Are there any last questions while we are here before we part ways for today? Yes, Melba.
Just the idea of Mary Jane and Father Henry about the possibility of putting together a group of delegates of the same country who will attend in the forum in person. I would like to follow up on the idea. I don't want it to get lost. So I don't know if someone might help us to organize this, or how are we going to proceed?
So I will add a question in that form where you are asked to select which session of the lab you want to speak in. I will add a question to that form saying, yes or no, would you like to join other delegates from your country to create a collective response to your government, or to continue to communicate after this program. I will put that question in the form. So anyone who wants to connect in that way with other delegates from your country, I will know who is interested, and I will make sure that you all have each other's contact information, and then we will proceed from there. Immaculate?
Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa. I just wanted to seek a clarification about the 3 contacts that you gave us. Would we use those ones as a follow-up for the form that we filled? Because I never got a response from that form, but I haven't actually written to any of these 3. So they're the same things connected?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, they are the correct people to contact. So I've put them back on the screen here in case anyone wants to copy those now. But yes, they would be the best people to contact about that form. Anastasia? Well, welcome, Anastasia. I'm very happy you could join us, and I will have your email from your registration today, and I will send you the presentation slides from each of our earlier meetings as a group. And we also have video recordings from each of our previous meetings. So you can truly revisit the entire journey if you want to, or you can quickly scan through the written material according to whatever approach is better for you. But we're very happy to have you with us, and look forward to continuing on the rest of the journey with you. I see a question from Dan about writing. Oh, okay. Good. You anticipated my question. Okay, so Dan wanted to know if you're writing to these three individuals who are on the screen here, Ollie, Jessica, Lonnie, if you can write to them in any language. And my answer to that is yes. I think especially all of them will probably be using an automatic translator, even if they don't already speak your language. There's a good chance they know multiple languages, but they will certainly have access to a decent automatic translator if not. So I don't think you should worry about translating on your own or to try to communicate with them in a specific language. I think whichever one you prefer will probably be sufficient. And just to anyone who is concerned, I will share all of our past materials with all of you. I see that question from Ruth as well. So I will make sure that you also receive that, Ruth. Any final questions? Okay, very good. Well, then once again, I thank you all for taking time from your day or your night to be here and to learn and to get excited, I hope, about the next actions that we will be taking both individually and collectively. And you can expect to receive all of this large packet of information from me by email after this call. You will receive it in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French, so that it may be clearer to you if English is not your preferred language. And I will also put the recording, the video recording from today on our playlist, where the same playlist where all of our previous meetings are recorded. So if you want to revisit anything or to share it with someone else who you think would appreciate the information, you're welcome to share it with anyone also. And other than that, I look forward to seeing you all again as a group on the 1st of July. I will see you in your email boxes and before then.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Anna, Vivian, and Jessica.
You, Teresa.
Bye,
Thank you
Teresa.
for
Thank you very
everything.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bye.
Okay.